Hello, and thank you so much for tuning in again. Again, my name is Amy Sayre, and I'm here with Rachel and Debbie to have a conversation about suicide for parents. And we're going to start this section talking about mental wellness because it's all about taking good care of your body and your mind, and helping kids to fill their toolbox with ideas and ways and strategies to help them feel better when they're feeling either anxious or depressed or just not mentally well for whatever reason. And that's not putting a patch on a negative situation. That's really helping them to understand how to cope and get beyond what they might be going through at that moment and get to the other side of it and really have a sense of their own bodies and what works for them as far as not having those feelings of anxiety, and also knowing who they can reach out to as far as trusted adults. So if we can talk a little more today and now about mental wellness and what some of those tools might be for a kid who might be struggling with either depression or anxiety.
Well, I'd like to think about the brain of anyone, but in particular, a young person needs certain things. They need to be able to sleep, they need to eat well, they need rest, meaning rest from technology, because the brain is overstimulated by technology, and we know that because it's actually been shown to be an addiction. So brain wellness is everything from that we normally try to do for ourselves as adults. But for a youth, it's even more difficult because the part of their brain thrives on excitement and thrives on doing some risk-taking behavior. So what we know about the adolescent brain is it's developing, and what happens is not only are they going through hormonal changes, they're going through serotonin, dopamine changes. And when I think about dopamine, I think about the energy and the need to move. And this is at all levels, but when you watch youth, you can see the need for them to move. So I think so much of our world is sitting down, and that's actually counterproductive to the way the brain works. So if I want a well brain, I have to exercise it physically and emotionally. I have to read good things every day. I have to challenge it and in a safe manner. It's kind of like when I think about going outdoors on a ropes course to a high element. I don't just go do it, I actually get prepared for it. I wear a harness and I have skills and I have instructors that are going to actually help me. All of those are true to have a well-rounded development. And I need adults that are looking out for me all the time. And they're actually helping me and intervening with me when I'm doing something that's too risky. Because I might not know that as an adolescent, where my risk line is. And so that's why I think whenever I think of youth, I think it's up to the adults in our life to help kind of mirror and give them that input about sleep and why it's important to have conversations face to face. And I think it's, one of the things that we've been talking about here in this room is about how difficult suicide can be to talk about. Well, you can't do it texting. In fact, you shouldn't do it texting. That's not best practice. Yet many of our kids get their information from that source. So that actually isn't helping them be well. That's not helping them look at alternatives. And one of the things that I like about the curriculum that you're using is it helps them with learning what their feelings are, learning about what actions they can take, learning about the consequences of those actions, taking a step back and pausing for a moment and saying, well, this is going to be the consequence. And then having the adult in the room helping shape those, and going through a real thorough process.
That's exactly it. And even in our, what I love about this curriculum, again, this is the Hazelnut Lifeline Suicide Prevention Curriculum that was just recently updated to add grades 5 and 6. And with the 5th and 6th graders, we've actually been having, Amy and I have been having these conversations just about that, there's a couple of vignettes where there are some students on a video that they're watching where they're having a conversation via text about a friend that they're worried about, and one friend really minimizes it and talks about, oh, they're just looking for attention. We've talked a lot about attention. And then we're able to discuss it, and the students were able to say, oh, well, one friend was really worried, the other friend really didn't take it seriously, maybe because they were texting. And we talk about how 80% of how we communicate is through our bodies. We miss all of that, and young students get that, they understand that. And then we watch another vignette of these two students then having a conversation about a friend they're worried about face to face, and how, oh, it's so different. They're able to see, one friend's able to see, the other friend is really worried. They're able to read her facial expressions and read her body language. And so we're able to have these really deep discussions around what is texting good for? Is it ever good for having a conversation when you're worried about a friend? And all the 5th and 6th graders have said, no, that's not what I should do. What I should do is reach out. I should reach out to that friend and say, hey, are you okay? And then talk about these steps. And if you're not comfortable reaching out to the friend, what do you do? And they all say, I talk to my trusted adult about my friend that I'm worried about.
You know, what's interesting as I was hearing you talk, I was thinking about, as a parent, when our kids are hurting or struggling when they're young, we pull them into our lap and we hug them and we let them. And if they're crying, sometimes we just hold them and rock them and that kind of thing. I get that we can't do that with our youth as they grow, but we do need that emotional support of kind of hugging and being held and being allowed to have our feelings. And I think that that's one of the things that all of this is about, is acknowledging when I'm feeling sad and letting whatever the emotion, whether it's happiness or sadness, but when I feel that, is not to try to discount that. It's to show that I'm listening. Oh, I hear that you feel this way. What are you thinking about that? And not only showing that I care, but whether I'm asking the question about suicide, but always thinking about who are the adults. And it might not be me as the parent or the grandparent at that moment. And that's why it's important for me as an adult to also have those resources. Who else can I talk to? Is it calling the school and saying, look, my child's having a difficult time, or what are you seeing at school? Because we're a team, and I think sometimes we think we're alone. And you know, we've developed programs statewide, so we have a texting line. You know, you can now, any youth, any adult can text. They just text Vermont, VT 741-741, and someone will text back. While that keeps them on the line texting, I'm also hoping that there's an adult involved as well, getting them to the person that they need to see.
Absolutely, yeah. And there are other great resources as well. We're really fortunate to be in Chittenden County. We have First Call, which is a 24/7 hotline that's available to young people. It's available to really, actually, right now, at this point, First Call's actually changed. It's not just for youth.
Right.
It's for all ages. Like we say, 0 to 100. So anytime a young person would like to call, they can call the hotline. A parent can call, a caregiver can call, any adult can call, and as a way to kind of get support locally as well. So that's another great resource, and that's 488-7777. And again, it's a 24/7 hotline for Chittenden County, which is another great resource. Yeah.
And one of our reasons for doing these 4 segments on this conversation is so that folks could see our faces too, because we really want to be a resource for parents, as do all school counselors in the district and statewide. So parents shouldn't feel that they're ever alone with all of these different resources, and now you've seen the faces, so you know that you can just call us. And I'm sure Center for Health and Learning too. You could call the center directly and find resources within your own community. Would be another important way to reach out. So if we had to summarize our whole really rich conversation that we've been having here, could you narrow in on like 3 main points for parents so that they understand that these are sort of the 3 main takeaway points that they should really sort of keep in their own box of tools for this important topic?
I think the first thing is to not ignore anything that's going on with your youth. No matter what it is, and it may seem insignificant at the time, but to have that conversation with another caring adult, whether that be your partner or somebody here at school, and check it out and see what other people are also seeing. I think the other thing is sometimes, because we are afraid, whether it's suicide or other issues, we don't want to ask the question. So I think the second thing I would really encourage everyone to do is really listen and see the behavior that this person is displaying, of whatever age, not just youth, but whatever age. What's going on? Events certainly can spur depression, but it can also be chemical, and it may be much more than this person can handle. And then the last thing is making sure they're safe. Is always never leave someone alone that you're concerned about. always make sure that you get them to the next level. And that's hard to do sometimes because, you know, if you're in a school and it's a Friday afternoon, but that's what the numbers are for, you know, is really reaching out to calling the 211 number, or a 911 number if you think someone is suicidal and you need the police there, is to really take it seriously. Always take it seriously. And whether someone gets mad at you or not, that's okay. It's better to have someone mad at you and do the right thing. Because the alternative to this is very, very painful for obviously not only the family, but the whole community. So prevention is really skill building. It's building the skill in me so that I feel comfortable enough to ask certain questions, but also to always, always know the resources.
Right.
And never be afraid to ask.
Well, thank you both so much. I really appreciate your time today, and you've traveled from a ways to be here. We really, really appreciate that while it's blowing snow around outside. Really, really appreciate it, and hope that parents will reach out to us with any questions that you might have. You can learn more about our curriculum that we're doing in school, or just have a one-on-one conversation with either Rachel or I, or your school counselor in your school. And please just know that we want to help in any way we can. We are constantly telling the kids in school that if you only knew how much we care about you, you would know that you could come to us for anything. So we're here for you, and thank you so much for your expertise, and look forward to talking with you again.